So back in the day, in 2020, on December the 21st, the great conjunction of kings occurred. What we had happening in our sky was Saturn meeting with Jupiter in Aquarius for the first time in over 900 years. And we're going to talk about how this energy is impacting you as now, on August the 19th, we see the opening square between these two powerful giants, the kings of the sky, Jupiter and Saturn. As a proof of concept, we're going to look at how August the 19th is asking you to investigate what it is you're trying to create anew in the Aquarius part of your sky. And this is a part of your sky that will be redirecting, recreating you, maybe giving you purpose and career. Your Aquarius sky is on the stage for each of us, no matter what our rising sign or sun or moon sign is. And so today's talk, we're inviting Adam Elenbaas of Nightlight Astrology to join us. Adam is an amazing astrologer. He was my teacher back in 2018 when I studied with him. We're going to be talking together for the next half hour, and then we're doing all signs on the second half, what this means for you. In the beginning, however, we are addressing the general meaning of this story. And I'm just waiting for Adam to come on into the Zoom room today. And in the meantime, while I wait, my Sky Reader class is starting, by the way. If you want to come join me to be your own astrologer and time your best life, that course is starting in the middle of September. And if you haven't seen my videos on the election series, one that predicts Joe Biden stepping down, one that predicted Tim Walz would be the VP pick, I have an election playlist. I also did indeed describe life-threatening storylines for Donald Trump around the 15th of July. So this is astrology that is predictive, but today we're really covering for you in the all signs portion, a deep dive into how you can use this proof of concept opening square on August the 19th. And you want to count a week before and a week after. And Adam Elenbaas of Nightlight Astrology is with us today in the room, my teacher and my colleague. Thank you for being here, Adam. I'm so grateful to have you. Tell us all a bit about what you're up to these days.
Oh, thanks for having me, Lori. Yeah, I love collaborating with you because it also gives me a chance to, speak to things in a kind of meet your vibe and style, which is like an opportunity to do something different than the normal format I follow. So it's really fun to collaborate with you. I enjoy it. Gosh, what's going on with me right now? Well, we just created, because we have, as people may or may not know, we have a number of different lengthy training programs for astrologers, and we realized we were missing sort of like astrology for absolute beginners. So we just created a really basic intro course I'm really excited for, because there's a lot, I feel like when you learn astrology, a lot of people learn astrology just by searching the internet and kind of figuring things out. And so we just realized there was a curriculum gap between the starting of our first year program and people who are brand new. So we kind of created something there. I've been excited about that. There's a sale on that running this August, so people can check that out on the website. Otherwise, we have fall enrollment coming up. We're trying to push the YouTube channel over 70,000 subscribers. We're really close. So fun stuff, always cooking something up.
Yeah, we want people to kiss the like button, right? Snuggle the like button, hug the like button,
yeah.
And grow the subscriptions as well. Yeah, that's wonderful. It is a very good gap to fill. I've noticed the same problem. Sometimes teaching classes, people come in and they really don't even have a very foundational understanding of anything about astrology. And it's the catch up momentum isn't there for them. Is that a standalone product that people can get, or like a self-study?
Yeah, that's right. So it's all pre-recorded. There's 8 modules, and it's for people who are like, I'm just getting into this. This is so cool, but it feels like Greek maybe. And a lot of people learn by just studying it on the web, searching and finding. There's all sorts of material out there, but I think this is just designed for people to get a really basic grasp on all the fundamental pieces of the language that we speak, so
Wonderful.
that you don't feel so alienated when you're getting into astrology. Yeah.
All right. Well, then I'll make sure the link to that particular product is in the description box below, guys, as well as Adam's YouTube channel and his website. And if you ever want to learn astrology over the course of a year, and I did that in 2018, can't believe it's so long ago, it turned my life around because it became this profession. So if some of you may find yourself really leaning to astrology, and I never want to teach somebody for a year, it's not my temperament, too much Aries, but no steadfastness here. But but Adam is the guy to go to. So I'm always recommending him for people who want to become a deep dive into a year-long time of study. It's an amazing course. So you can check out that. Fall enrollment is coming. So wonderful. So we're going to talk Saturn and Jupiter, father and son combo. Saturn, I kind of think of Saturn as restraint and Jupiter as possibility. And the two of them are in essence very, very different. One is a Titan god, one is an Olympian god. And when these two came together in December of 2020, December 21st, 2020, we started an era of Aquarian air that runs approximately 19 and a half years. And indeed, this energetic will last until, I remember the date, October 31st, Halloween 2040, when a conjunction occurs in Libra. So tell me a bit about your thoughts about how this, energy is playing out, not just as a global energy and a Aquarian energy for the world, but also in the opening square, which to me is always a testing time.
Right. Yeah. It's so maybe what I'll do is I'll just break down the way that I understand the Jupiter Saturn dynamic in general, and then it'll make more sense for me to give my thoughts about this particular square. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So the way that I think about Jupiter and Saturn comes from some of the way that I learned about Saturn when I was in India. I went to India a few times on, pilgrimage. I was, really deeply involved in a study of Bhakti Yoga, and went to India on pilgrimage and spoke at a conference in Calcutta where I got the chance to meet and hear a lot of different perspectives from Indian astrologers, and also a lot of interesting Western astrologers who were there. And one of the things that I became aware of was that in the ancient world, Saturn was looked at as this gatekeeper between the realm of the gods and that which went beyond the gods, which is closest to the Ade or the Archai, which are like the thoughts in the mind of God, the archetypal realm itself. And Saturn, of course, is the planet associated with the opposition. And insofar as we live a life, like as astrologers, we live a life that's like in contact with archetypal reality, but we're also in material forms that come to be and pass away, that are temporary and that are always changing and that approximate the archetypes, but always fall short because they're like reflections on water or something. That there's a tension between the ideal and the manifest world. And that tension is natural to creation. Like it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. But within the realm of the material world, Jupiter had this role of being the archetype of cohesion. Like when we think of some of the ancient principles like harmonia, this principle that the entire cosmos is a well-arranged, balanced, beautiful, truthful whole. That was very Jupiterian. Um, However, Saturn holds this really interesting role in that any approximation of the archetypal within a society, whether it's a government that is ideally supposed to uphold unity through something like virtue and fair governance and justice, and religious organizations that are supposed to uphold the ideal of divine equanimity and peace and harmony among people because of a recognition of divinity and so forth, or education, universities, very Jupiterian. They're supposed to uphold this ideal of learning and enlightenment. So Jupiter is like this planet that has always been about the representation of this idea of unity within a human society and within individual human lives, our personal philosophies, the various paradigms and structures that we use to create and uphold reality and so forth. But the problem is that these manifestations are in a world that by its very nature is impermanent and goes through cycles of creation and destruction, creation, maintenance, and destruction, to call on the sort of trinity of Hindu gods, for example.
Right.
But so when Saturn and Jupiter contact, Saturn being the natural limit of the material world and the what exists beyond in the ideal realm of the eternal. Of course, Plato says time is the moving image of eternity. So there's this interesting balance, this perfect union between the timeless and the time bound. But Saturn points to this intersection with the timeless and the time bound when it comes to these institutions of unity. So when a government goes through a collapse, when a government goes through a regime change, when there are major changes in laws, or when there are major changes in religious institutions, those are often coming because the natural way of things is for the material world to approximate some high virtue or archetypal ideal, but to constantly also fall short because there's decay and degeneration and death. So when the
Right.
two get together in their cycles, their conjunction is really the sort of meeting of a new way, a new form. And it's suggested because something has reached its terminal point. It's like it can't keep existing in the same way, and it's time to try to more closely approximate the ideal. Well, but different human beings and groups have different ideas and versions of what that ideal is that often compete during these cycles. And when you get the subsequent squares and oppositions and squares in their synodic cycle, essentially it's the continued story of how Jupiterian paradigms, and again, I think religion, government, law, education, things like that, are going through systematic revisions and remakings or major reconsideration because they're reaching a limit, and
Mm-hmm.
it's time to try to more closely approximate an ideal. But then again, within human history, you will have various groups competing as to what that ideal is, and that's sort of how I see the cycles on a collective or historic level. But of course, personally, they can look very different. They don't necessarily have to be, like we're talking now about great societal and collective shifts, but personally, they have a big impact as well.
Oh, yeah. Like I would like to address a couple of things you said because it made me smile. Like, the cohesive nature of Jupiter and also his rules children and family and what wisdom and goodness and justice, etc. But I was thinking about the astronomy. Sometimes it's like the astrology and the astronomy are one, and there's this like Jupiterian savior because he keeps the asteroid belt smashed up between Mars and Jupiter from hitting us because his gravitational pull is so great that the asteroid belt has a stable orbit. Otherwise, a bunch of space rebels heading towards the sun, and we wouldn't be here. So Jupiter prevails in life. He is the life giver in that sense. But then when I thought about what you were saying, and I thought about the old guard, the old guard, the old world, the old way, and the Chronos nature of Saturn, right? The timekeeper. And then we have Jupiter always wanting to like grow and expand. If I had to give Jupiter a dog, it's it's a golden retriever or something. I mean, there's so much optimism and faith and hope and bouncing around. And Saturn is like the stern, old wise, well, let's take a look at this and see if it's doable. So this idea of like a paradigm shift, I think, comes when we see these two unite, and uniting now in Aquarian air, where we're beginning a new 240 odd year period of this continued cycle. Libra is next. And we did see in 1980 a little dip into Libra air. So 1980, at about 19 years, there was a testing of the air, of the energy of air in our collective.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
saw good things. We saw the Berlin Wall fall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's I think it's interesting to also follow the thread of, here's Pluto sitting at that 0 degree marker right now. And in so many ways, it's like Pluto is pulling the thread from their conjunction. It's like Pluto's pulling it along. So it's interesting that Pluto's back at that degree while we have the first quarter square too.
Yeah, and it adds a whole new level of meaning with the Plutonian element being so engaged with Aquarius as we go forward in the next, 19 years. And that energy is so embedded in what's going on. Pluto is such a tricky bugger, right? God of riches, wealth, and power, but the dark shadow sides as well of, tyranny and control in Aquarian society. People, air, communities, the way we structure society itself. It's on its own, it's daunting.
Yeah. Yeah.
It makes me think of totalitarian systems and what do you call it? Like, CBDC, central bank digital currencies that can become controlled for social behaviors. You know what I mean? So
Right.
you get your credits when you're a good girl or good boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's daunting. But then the Jupiter Saturn conjunction is suggesting as well that this is like a wholesomeness to it. There's a paradigm shift at play. Um, I haven't had a chance to go back and look at the possibility of when this great conjunction occurred in Aquarius while Pluto was transiting Aquarius. You know what I mean? To find the historical episodic time that happened.
That would be interesting. Yeah, that would be an
Yeah.
interesting thing to do for
Yeah.
sure. I keep thinking about the fact that like when I think of Jupiter in Gemini at the moment, hitting this opening square to Saturn in Pisces, I think a lot about what Neptune in Pisces has represented over, well over a decade now. And one of the things that comes to mind is that if I just had to like very broadly summarize Neptune in Pisces, I think a big part of it has been what is real? What is trustworthy? What can I trust to be the truth in a situation? The real potential to see and feel subtle realities, as well as the potential to be deluded and to live in a kind of fantasy or illusion. And so it's just I have seen like I remember when Neptune first entered Pisces, there was uh conspiracy theories about Sandy Hook, and there was the Edward Snowden stuff coming out, and it was like, oh wow, we're all questioning what is true, what can be trusted, what is real. Very Neptune in Pisces. And I've noticed as a continued theme throughout, it's like what is real, what can be trusted. There's more going on than meets the eye, we know that, but sometimes that can take us too far in going down a rabbit hole and getting deluded by something that's a fiction. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like, when I think about this first quarter square, one of the things that I would say is just sort of overarching theme might have to do with, Jupiter in Gemini, especially given that Mars is conjoining right now this August, really makes me think about the analytical ability and the rational ability to be objective, to look at something clearly. And how much is a paradigm change right now rooted in getting some kind of clarity and objective distance about things that we've been wrapped up in like a fog, or that we haven't been able to see clearly, or we haven't been able to get to truth easily. That this Jupiter in Gemini, even though Jupiter's debilitated in Gemini, it's kind of like truth by negation. That's not true. That's not true. This isn't true. And I don't know what is, but slowly I'm peeling back layers of illusion or something
Ooh.
like that.
Well, truth night, I love that one. Truth by negation. It's funny. I wasn't really considering at all the Neptune influence. So, a couple of thoughts I had when you said that. Yeah, Neptune since I think 2011 started ingressing into Pisces, and we did see a lot. But I want to go back to truth negation in a minute, but we saw a lot of cool good stuff happen, like the ability for governments to say maybe some psychedelic drugs that you could use could be medicinal and helpful to
Yes.
you.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so taking ourselves out of our normal state of consciousness into an altered state can be helpful. But we also saw the criminalization of marijuana. But I also saw the escalation of the promotion of alcohol as an escape hatch. A lot of
Yeah.
the targeting of women, and especially as an area that they hadn't really gotten in the alcohol industry. They were really
Yeah.
usually guys, Coors beer,
Yeah.
get your cognac, but it really became a target for women, and a lot of women are recognizing that. So the whole industry of escape and drugs and pharmaceuticals and the dark
Oh
side of
yeah.
that are really prominent during this long time stay of Neptune getting ready to leave in Pisces. And with Saturn there, he's also like, yeah, like I always thought Saturn and Neptune together would be Saturn is saying, let's get real. And Neptune said, are you sure? What is real?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when you said, yeah, oh, but one more thing, that truth by negation is brilliant. I just love it, because Mars is Mars is connected to decision, decide this or that, cut, send. I'm going to cut this off. I'm going to move this in this direction. And as these two are coming in, Jupiter, Mars co-joined with the opening square August 19th, it's like Mars also is like the defogger on that Neptune co-present co-present with Saturn. Like there's a whole sign square. I always think when Mars is squaring or opposing Neptune, he literally is the guy who has that thing on your windshield that you press so you can see clearly.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Yeah, I love that. I was just going to add to what you were saying that as I'm a sports fan, and Neptune in Pisces, speaking of the like potential for escapism and promotion of escapism as we're juxtaposed with like psychedelic medicine. The other thing that seemed to enhance or seemed to open up a great deal is like online sports gambling, for example. That's become a huge thing too. And so I just wanted to just add that in because I was thinking about it when you were saying that, and I was like, yeah, that has been a big theme. And I mean, to me, the fact that we also are going to get, I mean, there's a whole conversation that I'm not quite ready to have because I'm still like thinking about it, but it's also that the last of these Jupiter Saturn dynamics are going to go into Cancer and Aries when we also have Neptune having moved into Aries. And like, that's a whole really interesting, almost like second act of the, like of the Jupiter Saturn square. But yeah, I was thinking about truth by negation because I think that one of the best things that, the Mercury Jupiter dynamic is wrapped up in the reason that Mercury and Jupiter are considered debilitated in each other's signs. And I really think of it as simple as something like, this feeling of cohesion versus the person or thing that starts questioning. And then, of course, Jupiter's reaction is going to be you're threatening the potential cohesion of a system. So, that's why you get kicked out of Sunday school if you're mercurial for asking questions that the teacher doesn't like or doesn't have an answer to. It's like, you don't ask those questions, just read the Bible or whatever. But I mean, that's kind of, to me, this is a moment where the questioning of Jupiter, remember, because Saturn's in Jupiter's sign, so there's some reception there, and Jupiter's in Mercury's sign, especially given that Mercury's also going through this big retrograde and hitting a cazimi / square to Uranus. I feel like the potential for some really thought-provoking questions and examination of a truth that suddenly come to light that can call into question things that we've been assuming to be real or true. That, I mean, but when I think about this personally, I just want to translate this for a second. This could be, for example, like I find this at work right now because a lot of this is my second house, right? And all of a sudden I'm going like certain things that I've been taught about how to handle and manage money from the business side of things to the personal finance side of things, I don't really think are totally true, or they're not the whole truth. There's other truths as well. Of course, Jupiter's in my second house, and I'm starting to read and learn a lot about financing, investing, because I'm at that age where it's like, I've got to start doing this. I have my own business. I got to think about how to do all this stuff. But I've been really breaking down some paradigms that I'm realizing, I'm like, geez, that was my grandpa's Depression era way of thinking of things in certain instances that are like way too conservative around money. And so these paradigmatic changes and the questioning that I'm talking about, the examination could come in money, in love, in parenting, in the workplace, in the way you're handling a project at work. I feel like you could miss it because you're thinking, I'm going to find a new religion or something. And it's actually, it might be more fundamentally tied to something just really simple, like your personal finances or something.
Yeah, and that's a really good point to bring it back to the real world for people listening. Because in the second half, I've already recorded yesterday, we'll be talking about the house in which the conjunction happened back in 2020, but also the house in which Jupiter and Saturn currently reside. And so there's a lot about really taking that, particularly Jupiter Mars together, right? It's like fortunate action or heroic, bold confidence. I mean, it's a very good combination in general, but all of a sudden it gets embattled into square with Saturn. And so there is something good trying to happen. When I think of Jupiter, I always ask myself, what good thing is trying to happen here?
Yeah.
Right. So something good is trying to happen in Adam's second house because that's his, Gemini house. And so, and for me as an Aquarius rising, I'm asking myself what good things are trying to happen in the house of my children, at my fifth house, or the house of my creative projects and stuff like that. And yet there's so the possibility is there and the excitement is there, and you can reframe your financial understanding from whatever it is to where it might be going. but also the restraint. I mean, because Saturn is also somehow also about, I always think of Saturn as the one who created the 10 commandments. And you know what I mean? It's just so strict. It's just so
Yeah.
like, and shouldn't you shouldn't like kill someone or covet thy neighbor's wife anyway? Like, isn't that just a natural a natural way of being in the world? And then along comes the golden rule instead, which is kind of Jupiter: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Let's just simplify goodness. So
Mm,
when Jupiter goes in a place in the sky, no matter who he's talking to, square Saturn in Pisces, he still is trying to create something simply good.
yeah. 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 I love that. Yeah. I think about it really similarly, but I think there's one small difference. I would say that both the 10 Commandments and the Golden Rule are both Jupiterian, but the transition from one to another is the Jupiter Saturn dynamic, where
Ah.
Saturn is going to represent the limit of the instantiation of the law and its death and transformation. And because in that sense, we Saturn is always wrapped up in polarization between one era and the next. I think we make the mistake of thinking of Saturn too much like Kronos, when people thought about Saturn more like the transition from Zeus to Kronos, or the tension between the two.
Yeah, that's very true. And Saturn being, so what I was referencing here is that the ancient world considered the relational testimony between planets connected to planetary archetypes. So, Venus is the sextile, Mars is a square, etc. And then, of course, Saturn represents the oppositional energy, the 180 degrees away. And so, if you're a Jungian, you're always talking about binding the tension of opposites. How do you
Yeah.
find that place where it's not here or there, but it's somewhere else? It's a third option. So when Saturn gets mucked up with Jupiter, yeah, in wherever he is, in this case, Jupiter's in Aries, we're looking at also how we can actually, I think always the invitation is to move out of the polarity and oppositional framework of reality.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's definitely like there's a concept in Indian philosophy that I really fell in love with a few years ago when I was really studying a lot about Bhakti Yoga, and it was called Achinta Beta Beta Tattva, which is broadly speaking simultaneous and perfect unity and duality occurring simultaneously. And the way that I understood it is that essentially we're trying to cultivate a kind of unity consciousness while also recognizing that life is in some ways made possible. Manifest life in the physical world is made possible through duality. So it's like, how do you be a non-dual creature in a dual world? Something like that. And I feel like that's what Jupiter and Saturn are always trying to help us more closely approximate, in the way that they try to articulate new truths in ways by which we can live.
Well, if we go with the idea that this is a simulation, or that this,
Yes, let's do it.
or this is a fictional realm. Okay,
Mhm.
this is a reflection in the water of what's real and true and ever, forever, ever real. You know, then if you think about a good fiction novel, you will not read a good fiction novel unless you have oppositional energy. And what does oppositional energy do? Man against nature, man against himself, man against, the opponent. There's no story. There's nothing that moves the story forward. So when we go to Saturn, we think the nature of the opposition, we actually can't have reality move forward without oppositional energy, right?
Yeah,
It
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
exist. Like, if you have no oppositional energy in your own life, you're probably pretty stagnant. You might be in a coma.
Yeah, well, and I think that's why Plato says time, which would be very Saturnian, I think, in this sense, time is the moving image of eternity. And
Yeah.
that we get that kind of like, and it's really important that we continue to work on our recognition of that, in the way that we work with and relate to Saturn, because it's very liberating when we do. We can see like, okay, there's this sort of time-bound linear thing, but my consciousness is not bound by it. And so I can participate in it freely, in the same way that I think like an analogy might be like a jazz musician can work off from scales or something.
Yeah, exactly. And that's an interesting concept too, because this is actually mutable energy we're dealing with here. So we
Yeah.
have this very flexible, fluid, changeable, adaptable mutability embedded within the placement both of Saturn and Pisces and Jupiter Mars in Gemini in this square. So it invites in a lot of that fluid, changeable, ever changing movement of eternity and time. It's extremely that. It's not fixed, we're like, and then we go cardinal in June. Oh my God. So we can expect this kind of three-part story, August 19th, December 24th, June 15th, to sort of end on a note of action, So from all of this, testing, open square, proof of concept, check your terrain, prepare for liftoff, we get to that last one in June. And I just think it invites action. And it's on the world axis. It's at 1 degree of Aries and 1 degree, oh my God, of Cancer.
Right, with an exalted Jupiter and a Saturn that's debilitated in Aries, so it's like it's a very powerful, interesting dynamic. That's a great point. I love the mutability point you brought up because one of the, and you may say this on your channel too, I don't know, but one of the ancient designations, like one of the translation conventions used to convey the Greek for mutable was double-bodied. And what I love about that particular, I use both all the time, but what I particularly love about double-bodied is it means that it's of two different natures simultaneously. And you can see that in each of the constellation images. Like you have in Pisces, you have one fish swimming eastward and upward, the other downward and westward. Those were the pulls toward transcendence versus immanence, like the ascent versus descent. So there's a duality. And the centaur, obviously, you have a duality. And the Virgin, interesting, most people don't think of this because a lot of the constellation art for the Virgin involved either a bird on her shoulder or wings. And so the Virgin was another dual image of a feminine sort of goddess at the same time a mortal. So it's like a feminine duality in Virgo that's really interesting. And then Gemini, of course, the twins. But in those double-bodied signs, as you were saying, like they're transitional spaces where in order for transitions to be made, certain dualities have to be either undone or the tension of the dualities creates something new, which follows in the subsequent creative sign. So there's this interesting way in which double-bodied signs destroy, like thinking of like, if you think about what happens at the last degrees of any signs, the signs that are like those last degrees are a little bit like the mutable signs. They have the power to be deconstructive. But then, because two of them are ruled by Mercury, the other two ruled by Jupiter, you also have this ability for things to be remade and for birth to closely follow. And so, yeah, the fact that we have this month, two of the signs are mercurial, and there's a major Mercury retrograde going on. And then one of the signs is Jupiterian, but it's got Saturn in it. So if I follow this out, I would think of this as a pretty deconstructive period where there's a lot of things being analyzed or called into question or examined somehow. And maybe the wheels of a revisions put in motion. And then if you take it forward to December and then again next June, it's June, isn't it? Yeah, it's June.
Mm-hmm.
You take it forward to next June, and I think you go from more of a transitional space to a creative, something ready to be birthed forth from the Jupiter Saturn square happening in such transitional spaces.
Yeah, and in the real world, like Gemini ruling neighbors, brothers archetypally and stuff, and we have wars between neighbors and brothers. So I think some of the square, without going into too much depth, because I do mundane, and that's not the point of today, but it really looks to me like things to do with the retrogradation of Saturn, the retrogradation of Mercury, where Jupiter sits in his home, is like some kind of 2 steps back to go 2 steps forward, or 1 step back to go 2 steps forward regarding the warring brothers, which is Ukraine, Russia, or Gaza, Israel storylines. And that may be a big story, but also we're heading into that election year. And oh my God, the sky looks rough for this looking like a normal election. And so the August 19th pivot point and then the December, I think, are to do with some kind of hiccup, delay, or problem in the election, even almost a Gore Bush hanging Chad vibe.
Right. Yeah, it is really interesting. I have typically done horaries for the elections, the past couple of elections since
Oh
I
my God,
started.
Adam, sorry, I'm not even going to wait. I'm doing an election panel. I know you try to stay away from world politics, but it'll be on my channel. You should come on the election
Yeah,
panel
that'd be
and do it.
great.
Throw the horary on it. We're going to do that. I've got some really great astrologers lined up.
That'd be great. I'd love to join. See, I designate my channel for personal exploration of the archetypes because the truth is that I'm just not the most politically informed or active person.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't vote or that I don't pay attention to things. It's just I just refined my offering, you might say, and I'm like, oh, this is my lane, so I'm just going to stay in it. But every year since I've been an astrologer, that there's been an election, I've done a horary. And so I'll probably continue in that tradition on Instagram rather than my YouTube channel. I'll share the horary and my thoughts about it. But anyway, I was just going to tell you before I put a ribbon around that. The only thing I've run into so far is so I initially cast the horary when it was clear. It looked very clear that Harris was going to be the nominee. But then I realized, like, is there a moment when it's official? Because like in horary, you probably shouldn't cast a horary, electional horary for two candidates that haven't been confirmed as the two primary candidates. So that was like, oh, so I have a second horary when I think it was made official like yesterday or today, maybe even.
I think it's today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I cast it this morning. So because I saw the news on my feed that it had been confirmed, and then I was like, okay, good, I'm going to cast it. So I have two horaries, and I need to really spend time with both of them because one of them was prior to the
Yeah.
official, and so I'm like, oh God, that I would throw a wrench in my horary process. But anyway, yeah, I would love to do that. It sounds like
It
fun.
would be so good, even to just deconstruct your horary process and what you came up with on the panel. Everyone gets their own time to share their thoughts, and there'll some be people who have different opinions and why it's so. But with the election looking so complicated, like I had the Tim Walsh pick on who she was good, the Veep stakes that I put up Friday, based on just looking at the perfection ages and the sons of the contenders, like Sun SON.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, the sun in the sky,
right.
because it was obvious that the best pick would be him. But and then it should be him that she will pick. But just for you and me on the election, for anyone listening, there's this kind of Jupiter refrainment from Trump's sun and from Kamala's ascendant because Jupiter's coming up, like sniffing at them and then backing off in retrograde before the election.
Yeah,
And Jupiter being like the coronation energy, like you're the winner, you're the one, that vibe, I think of as Jupiter, and that whole like literally coming up to Trump by minutes to his 22-degree sun and by about 3 degrees to Kamala's 24-degree. Yeah, 24-degree ascendant. It's almost like there's something that stops the final decision. That's how I've been seeing that as a almost cartoonish truth. You know what I mean?
yeah. It is very interesting. The astrology happening. Also, I find it fascinating that there's if you take whole sign houses and you use Trump's Leo rising,
Yeah.
that you've got a Mars retrograde, a station Mars, and then retrograde happening not long after the election as well is really interesting to me too. I was pondering that, but anyway,
So
I'll wrap up all my thoughts for the
yeah,
panel.
so we're going to save that. But the point, we got down the rabbit hole just simply to say that this square is occurring August 19th, and it is in proximity to its unfoldment between the next square and December. It encompasses a story that sort of brackets that election period. So we can expect that that's going to also, all the themes we talked about, including the revision archetype. Revision is the word you used. And there's retrogradation with Saturn. It's really also bundling in a story between August 19th and December 24th that just happens to be an election year.
Yeah, that's right. And I think there's like one of the things that stands out to me about the second, if you look at the second square between Jupiter and Saturn, Pluto is back at the 0-degree marker of Aquarius, further emphasizing and re-highlighting the conjunction point of Jupiter and Saturn from December of 2020. And at the same time, there'll be a Mars opposition to that Pluto. So it's a very dynamic time, and I feel like whatever transition is occurring with Jupiter and Saturn, structural, paradigmatic, philosophical, that that there's going to be a way in which the ramifications of this change, like not everybody's going to like it. And I think of a quote that comes from a podcast my wife listens to. I think it's called "We Can Do Hard Things." But there was a guest on the show, and I think I want to say it was like Diana Ross's daughter or something. I might be messing this up, but anyway, she was saying, I realized at one point in my journey that you can't be everybody's cup of tea, but you can be a damn strong, good cup of tea that some people will really like.
Mm.
and like that, to me, there's something about this because of, like, we have some this month, we have some Leo Aquarius energy happening right around the Jupiter Saturn square. And when I think of Leo Aquarius, one of the tensions that I think that axis provides is the tension of how to be true to something that feels like it's authentically me, my creative essence, Leo, versus what collective role or participation or identifications do I have? And how do those things dialogue with each other? Like, to what degree do I have to stand out and be apart from the group? And to what extent do I need to sacrifice some of my own ego to serve things that are bigger than myself, that are important, that are collective or more social? And like, the fact that there's some tension around that in this moment of paradigmatic change brings that quote to mind for me. Because it's like, well, at least part of this, I think some people are going to go through a change where it's like you have to recreate some structures, and you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. You might experience some people reacting adversely to the changes you're making, and that's part of the process somehow.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's that whole thing about not always liking what's happening too is going to be a big one for the world. The markets are probably also retracting. I mean, Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and he rules markets in general and mercantile, and he's retrograding to revise, go back, and we've got this intensity in the sky. And don't forget, we have that Aquarius moon squaring algal Uranus, connected to this whole time frame as well. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's one of the most, I think it's one of the most tempestuous skies I've seen
Oh yeah.
in a long time. As I said, we were in the intro, guys, before you got here, I said the T square from hell this summer.
Yeah.
Venus
It's
and
gnarly.
Virgo. It's gnarly. I love it. That's exactly what I've been saying. It's so gnarly. So all we know, it's a gnarly mid-August. I always said first part of August, you're sailing fine. You think things are pretty okay. And then second half of August, everybody's like, WTF is going on. So
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the 19th, where we've got, the full moon T square to Uranus, with Mercury also having just gone through Cazimi and square to Uranus, and Venus is opposing Saturn, and there's this T square with Jupiter, Mars, and Saturn. Like, that has to be one of the busiest astrological days of the year. Am I wrong? I think it is. I
no,
mean, it's right
it's
up
crazy.
there.
It's really crazy. It's a crazy day. It's a crazy week. The whole, I would kind of saying from the Jupiter conjunction to Mars on the 14th or so through to about the 21st of the month. That's a thing. I don't even know if you can give it a simple description. Like, it's
Yeah.
just too complicated. It's so
Yeah.
layered.
Yeah,
But it's like,
exactly.
I would say, with Uranus getting embedded as well into the story with the Kazemi, there are some unexpected developments.
Yeah, one of the things that I was talking about with respect to one thing that I like about Mars and Saturn squaring, as Mars hits Jupiter and Saturn like pretty close together. And one of the things I love about Saturn Mars dynamics is the ability to be effective and to get things done under pressure, or kind of that saying, like, necessity is the mother of invention. Like, Mars Saturn dynamics are like, something comes up that's difficult or that's an obstacle, and you you have to kind of, put your nose to the grindstone and get something done. And the fact that Jupiter's in the mix suggests to me that it can get done, but there's something positive that can come, that's trying to come through, as you were saying earlier. Like, Jupiter wants to do something good here, but it might be like, one of the things I said in a podcast I just recorded for next week was, that moment where it's something super benign and normal that sets off a domino of major change. Like, I use this example of, like, being in my closet and puttering around, and a shoe falls off my overly crammed, disorganized shelf and hits me on the forehead, and somehow I just go, enough. I'm going to organize this closet, you know? I get like disproportionately angry for a small shoe coming out, but it's because over months I've come into this closet and seen it sort of overrun, and I need to give a bag to Goodwill, and like, you know, and it's just something simple that can be like the little wrench in the wheel, and then all of a sudden a big change can happen. And I could see this month being like just a cacophony of like busy but multiple stressors that coming all together create that kind of frenzy of like enough.
Yeah, it has that vibe, doesn't it? Like a basta, enough. And also, like, anytime Saturn and Mars are working together, and this can look like frustration sometimes, but there's a square, which is like that breakthrough energy. So, really, like, somewhere, somehow, all of us will feel a little bit of that shoe on our head and make a big action plan change or momentum to shift it, So, there's an opportunity in this intensity. There's opportunity, Jupiter, in this intensity. And simply, as Renn Butler would say, Jupiter Mars can be fortunate action, but it's coming in a kind of a crucible of tension that it's almost a forced moment of choosing to do something that's a fortunate decision, Mars, or action, Mars. So for the world, it's going to be a pretty interesting and intense window of time. And for each of us, of course, in the second half of this video, we're more on the general themes of this, I will be delineating some of my thoughts about it. So that's coming up next as Adam and I finish up today.
Yeah, I was, the other image that came to my mind is, let's say you have a great idea for a new product, if you have a small business or something like that. So you put out this new product and the sales are just bang, great. You've got a new product that is going to be successful. Immediately coming in is an unexpected bill. So immediately it's like the initial fruit of that good idea is allocated by something unfortunate that comes up. But the promise is still there. It's like, no, this idea we know we can now run with. And I may not have been able to reap the immediate benefits right now, but if I am patient and take the seed of what worked here, there will be a time at which it will work and it will be profitable for me. Like, that's an analogy that comes up in my mind for these energies.
Yeah. That exactly it. So if there is a moment of a sense of frustration or something that doesn't quite, you feel like you hit a bit of a wall, Saturn, Mars, there is also this promise, this possibility, this opportunity that Jupiter is presenting in the midst of that. Yeah, I love that. I love that. I was going to say, of course, this is happening and you're using a business money thing and it's in your second house. So there you go.
Because honestly, like, we're running a sale right now, right? And we're running a sale this month on that course I was telling you about earlier. And my initial thought was, well, this sale for me, almost immediately, like, I can tell you when Mars Uranus conjoined on my ascendant in Taurus, at like within an hour, there was a big storm here in Minneapolis, and a major tree, like house destroying tree, crashed onto our property. And thankfully it didn't do anything but destroy we have like a property line fence, and it completely destroyed the fence. So I was just laughing because we had this sale on the calendar. I was like, well, there goes that sale. I'll probably be paying for the fence. So that's actually where it came from.
Oh my God, that's a great example. Is your ascendant on Algol or is it off of Algol?
It's at 25. It's at 25, so it's pretty close.
Pretty close, huh? Yeah. Wow. That's a whole story about you. Watch for your head, honey.
Watch, exactly.
Okay, well, you've gone through a lot of head changes with your hair, so we'll just count that in.
Great.
He lost his head, he went bald, he got his hair back.
Right.
It's all good. You've already lived the archetype, no need to do it. You picked the lesser of the poisons,
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is a great talk. I really enjoyed it. It's perfect that you're putting this course out as a sale. I love it. How many people come into my Sky Reader course, which is probably starting the third week of September, to time their best life and be their own astrologer. It's really about timing tools that I can shove at people without having them, have to go too deeply into astrology, simple tools,
Sure.
And one of the cool things about that is I will try to direct people there because I get a lot of people going, oh no, I'm over my head already, when they get in there, because I say, advanced, beginner, early, intermediate, and yet right. I still find people completely overwhelmed by the basics.
Yeah, it's I think, if people are going to check out one thing on our site, obviously there's a ton of courses we have, and I think there's lots of good webinars and master classes and stuff like that you could purchase on our shop. But like the new product is really like, how can we serve people who are really brand new, who need some way of putting a lot of things together in a short time that's manageable and that sets you up for further immersion, you know?
Yeah, because astrology is a language, and you can take that very intro course that you need to travel to France, because to say l'addition s'il vous plaît, the bill, thank you. And I think that that's a definite place that there's not a lot out there to serve it, and I didn't have any patience or time to try to create it. So I will definitely be sending people your way for that, sale or not, because it's a great way for them to test the water. And if you guys want to think about astrology for professional reasons, of course, or even just a real immersion, then I can't even say enough, Adam, because your first year course to me was eye-opening and game-changing. And I found you through Nadia Shaw, by the way. She's one of my favorite astrologers, who interviewed you about the course way back in the day. And one of the things I remember that really made sense to me when I was listening to you was the return of the ancient wisdom. I didn't even know what it would be till I took the course, but I've always felt, not to diss modern astrology, sorry guys, but I always felt that even though I've been doing astrology and casting charts since I was in my 20s, so the early 80s, I never really found it fit properly until I moved to whole sign houses, and my entire chart went like, and everything about my life made sense for the first time. So for someone who studied astrology since she was in her 20s, meeting Adam in my late 50s and learning even just the whole sign house system, well, everything made sense all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's been such a pleasure to watch your career just rocket off into space too. Like, I remember when you came through the program, you were easily like the most inquisitive, engaged student, right up there with a few others who are also professional astrologers now. And the course has grown a lot since you came through, and I miss some of those smaller groups we had. It was really nice to be able to study a little bit more intimately. Now the courses are a little bit bigger, but they've also gotten a lot better too over the years. So I appreciate you promoting.
Oh, I'm sure your content has evolved, and plus you've got people helping people with questions, like a lot of support. I understand that that's really important as well. Yeah. So everyone, Adam's info is below, including a direct link to the intro course that you need to get your feet wet into the language of astrology. And Adam, I'm so grateful to have you on the channel. Last time you were on, rave reviews. Seems like there's a big crossover between our audiences. A lot of my people watch you a lot of the time. So I already announced you'll be coming on. I heard everyone's excited. So we're going to be putting this recording August 5th. This video is going out on Sunday at 9 a.m. Everyone who's, you're going to get it then, but for you, that's when we're coming live with this in the premiere. I'll be there chatting with people. If you're not busy Sunday, pop in and say hi.
Will do. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Adam. And well, I'm just going to stop the recording so I can attach this. I'm going to just sign us off as you and me going goodbye too. Is that good with you?
Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay. Have a great day, Adam.
You too. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. So let's go ahead and do the all signs portion of the Jupiter and Saturn square moving through our sky in August, as well, of course, as we discussed with Adam in the month of December on the 24th, and yet again in the springtime in June. This is the opening square for the Jupiter Saturn conjunction that occurred December the 21st, 2020. This is a story that's going to take us all the way through till 2030 to complete, as we mentioned. So we're talking about like the opening act, and let's get going. So I'm going to talk about how this impacts your sign. I'm going to really focus on how it might feel in the summertime in the month of August, but also understand the larger spread of the story, as we discussed earlier, that will take you all the way through until next June to get the lay of the land. And we're going to focus on your sign. So listen for your sun sign, moon sign, and rising. And as I always explain, the moon can be your mind, your body, and your home. The sun can be your eternal nature, but also career and purpose matters, as well as father figures, as the moon is mother and mother figures. But the rising sign is you at the steering wheel of your life, playing the character you're here to play in the game of life. So over the next, I'd say 45 minutes to 50 minutes, we'll be covering your forecast regarding this really lovely, amazing, challenging time, because yes, we are in the era of an Aquarius air conjunction, and we're all very new to this energy that started for the world back in the day, right? Back in December. So let's get going and talk about how it impacts you in particular. Let me make sure that I'm cued to the right chart. I'm not looking at the chart of Donald Trump or any of the political videos I have been putting out. Let's see. I'm going to open up that transit chart again and we'll get started. Oh my God, the crows keep coming back because they hear me talking. And in my last video, you may have noticed that we had a crow mania. They're family and they come by when I am recording. Let me see if I can close that window. Yeah, I just closed the door. So our family of crows is not trying to be a part of the video, like my Venus video, Venus in Virgo Fallen that came out on Sunday or Monday. Maybe it was the Monday video where we had a huge amount, the Lionsgate portal video, a huge amount of like loud noise in the background. And people were like, I thought it was my cat and outside my window, etc. And by the way, welcome to my channel. Again, I introduced myself at the beginning, but if you're just jumping ahead to the all signs, welcome to my channel. And if you like this kind of all signs content, which I produce for almost all of my videos, minus world or political event videos, then you're definitely in the right place. Okay. So Aries, sun, moon, and rising. I want to remind you that this is an epochal cycle for the first time in your life. You know, you've got that Saturn conjunction to Jupiter, the great conjunction at 0 degrees of Aquarius back in December 2022. And the longer story of this story for the next 20 years, the real grit of the story is how you're powering up in new areas of reality in your 11th house of great gains and influence over groups of people, movement making, actualization of dreams and wishes, and large social group influence or connections. And those areas of your life are really the focal point of a new direction that will take a full 20 years from 2020 December to realize itself. And in the context of that, this is the opening square, meaning it's the proof of concept. It's a time to test it. And you will be testing it not only this mid-August on the 19th and give or take a week before or after, but also, of course, in December 24th, also fluctuate a week before and after, and of course next June 15th as they move into a square in cardinal signs. We'll be covering each of those in individual ways, but it's going to take between August and next summer, June, for you to finally figure out how this idea of your new area of influence really plays out in the world. And this is the testing period. And the not just proof of concept, as I said in the early part of the introduction, I hope I did, but also the idea that you have to get that like shoot from underneath the ground, and it's fragile. It's as a first testing of something new, right? So it's like, I like proof of concept as a phrase. So now as we go through this August, you're going to notice, and I'm not going to cover the T-square because I have a separate weekly video on angling into the Venus story. So maybe, just maybe, I will make it a lot simpler. This is the most simple delineation you're going to get. I am not going to cover the complications of a T-square in any great measure. I don't know if I'm going to take it out. I'll leave it there, but don't worry about the Venus opposition to Saturn. That T-square is its own storyline that I'm going to specialize in. We really want to just cover the Jupiter and the Saturn narrative. So let's make this a little simpler. I really think just focus on Jupiter, Saturn, and not be bedazzled and bamboozled by the bigger picture of what else is going on. And that would like really lend itself to clarity for your understanding of a synodic cycle that is playing out. And though it involves Venus and opposite Saturn, that's a shorter term influence and it complicates matters. Okay. So here we have the energy of what is going to be a time in which Jupiter, in a conversation with Saturn, says all of that optimism and enthusiasm and bold confidence and, you know, fortunate action that you're capable of, thanks to Jupiter and Mars together, have to be tempered by what Saturn wishes you to realize or accomplish in that 12th house. Saturn is just the guardrails. He's the bumper bowling, you know, guardrail, so you don't get a gutter ball. And don't be afraid of Saturn. He makes the hard things worth the effort. And Saturn is saying, I'm going to give you a little bit of structure and containment and a little bit of a feeling of restriction regarding what you're generating in that third house in not only August, of course, but through to the energies of December and even through to the energies of June. What are you doing, guys? Are we have an Aries sun? Are we writing? Are we busy on social media? Are we traveling? Are we getting really deeply involved with a younger sibling, or things that are going on in our neighborhood that bring us a sense of expansion, hope, optimism, growth, and directionality? We may be. And yet we have to watch what Saturn says, which is, let's temper this with reasonable discipline regarding income and revenue from far foreign shores, reasonable discipline regarding deep spiritual liberation and moksha. Keep your sage-like enlightenment quotient in the game. Don't just discard it as you get this exuberant confidence and bold action that can really work for you in the third house. Saturn is what you do privately, home alone. Like, for instance, I'm writing an astrology book. If an agent can sell my concept, well, it requires the structure, the discipline, and the what is endurance, Saturn, to create something in the hidden place where you're off stage, you're behind the scenes, you're doing something in the back room, like writing a book. I see a lot of authors indeed actually write long projects. Well, something goes on in their isolation chamber of the 12th house. Ultimately, as I briefly talked about, and I hope with Adam, because I'm recording this before I see him to record that, so we're appending the pieces together, but I would like to talk with him how this is mutable, a mutable sign, energy, and it leads to a grand finale in the cardinal signs of course, the cardinal signs of Cancer and Aries, where Jupiter and Saturn will be respectively in June 15th next summer. So all of this mutable, flexible, adaptable, bendy, Gumby energy leads to breakthrough energy finally in the part of the chart that represents the Aries part of you. You are Aries. You are getting that energetic connection to Saturn. You are wise, strong, and sure and sturdy, as well as you get the exaltation of Jupiter in the fourth house. And it kind of like maybe all this hard work and effort and proof of concept of your great career gains leads to positive and exciting changes regarding your home and where you live next year. And so keep that in mind, because it does end in the home self axis, right? I am responsible and Saturnian, and I'm looking down at my fourth house of land, home, property, and real estate, where I have an exalted Jupiter. Big things are happening in, from, and home, prosperity in and from the home, but maybe a big home, a beautiful home, a joyful home, an expansion of your home, or children in the home. Yes, because Jupiter is the god of children. Maybe you're going to have a grandchild or a child, or maybe Aries, children in the home. Things like that could happen for you next summer. Depends on what you're thinking of doing in this reality. If you want to have kids, this looks like children may come into the home. It won't necessarily be a cakewalk. It is a square, but you have the sort of Saturnian endurance to deal with. Child in the home, children in the home, family in the home. They could be exalting for you next summer, but also larger home, prosperous home, bigger home. And last but not least, maybe a potential of a grand finale in which there is some earning money coming to you from what we would call legacy wealth sometime in June through July of next year. But the grand finale still requires you to get through the mutable squares, and that mutable square of June 15th, and then again, August 19th and December 24th, continue to ask you to prove yourself. Can you make great career gains, influence large people, become quite well known amongst the masses? Can you get powerful and rich up here? Can you open gates of success? Because of course, this is Pluto's new domain, and this energy is asking you to prove it, but the discipline and containment of exuberance through persevering hard work and discipline behind the scenes. And lastly, if you have any kind of bad habit addiction or self-undoing, Saturn's really good at bringing that to heal, like the dog that has to heal. And you really get control of that through this August and December square energy, for sure. Okay, for sure. That could really be a support structure for what you're building in the third house. I want to write the Wine Lover's Middle Way. Honestly, it looks like proof of concept for that book as well. Taurus, you guys are having a very interesting time, because you remember back, as Adam and I would have hopefully discussed, the Jupiter conjunction to Saturn is a bellwether, bell keep, ding, 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 pitch pipe moment, where your keynote energy for the next 20 years is from that 2020 to 2040 timeframe, is asking you to really clearly look at how you wish to be some kind of powerhouse of containment and wisdom and success and truth and expansion in the 10th house of your social standing, career, and reputation. And that's the area that demands your attention. And it's a first in a lifetime energetic. And so you're going to bring your eyeballs, your mind, your heart to feeling into how you will have luck, opportunity, growth, and expansion and favor in your career, but Saturn says also you're using the power of that containment, that structure, that wisdom. You can rise to the top of organizations, and you can be the top of anything with this combination in your 10th house. Now the proof of concept is here. That proof of concept energy is Mars, Jupiter co-joining in the second house in August, in a square to Saturn. The opening square is here. What is it really about? I would suggest that you're actually looking very clearly at the balance between financial exuberance around money that you have to save, earn, possess, or even inherit. Jupiter looks across at the inheritance house, and the structure and focus you need to do well by any kind of financial gain. Saturn is giving you great gains in your career. That's his role up there, and he will continue to do that, but in a steady and measured way. This is not like an overnight success in the career finances, but you are able, right, quite effectively to use a kind of great gradual, perseverant, forbearant energy to increase your financial wealth in the earnings house. But now we have to prove the concept. The earnings of the career are here. So there's a tension in the sky in the middle of August. What are you tense about? What are you trying to figure out? It definitely is going to be very much a money matter, right? You're looking at how you can be more disciplined regarding how you are able to save the money you make in a career, how you're able to structure your earnings in a new way. But you're exuberant and you're bold and you're confident because, yay, it looks like this is opening up in August, a feeling of bold, dynamic, fortunate action that allows for, thank you, Pluto in the 10th, some significant financial success in work and career matters. And don't forget, we have to look at the fact that in December, this is being readdressed without the support of Mars. And so again, in December, it can be proof of concept. Do you have what it takes to go the distance in some kind of earning setting? Because if you can go the distance, the grand finale that comes next June in the cardinal square is going to say that grand finale opens up an exaltation of your third house with a square from your 12th. And that could indicate some success with money generated from travel, foreign lands, foreign shores, and an increase. Jupiter exalts your third house of success if your career involves marketing or selling. You may indeed have a step sideways or up or over in some career development in the spring. So, another division, another part of a company or another part of career focus for you emerging with the cardinality and the exalted Jupiter. It's fine. It's a grand finale. It feels good. You may even be able to do more of what you're doing in connection to the themes of foreign shores, foreign lands, foreign companies, travel for work, or just more power to do the success that you're doing in and from behind the scenes maneuvering, whatever that means, in the secret cabal of your career. Ultimately, don't forget, this is the opening square from the idea of the focus of the next 20 years is for some reason asking you to step into more power and more wisdom and more structure of career success in the next 20 years. A lot of you will look back at 20 years later from 2020, and you'll be able to note that this went well. My career was my focus. My focus was to succeed. I succeeded. But you got testing structures along the way, and this opening square is indeed one of them. Also, if you have been plagued by any kind of addictive substance abuse, this can change dramatically because the last opening square function in June 15th next year, always bracketed by a week on either side, squaring an exalted Jupiter looks like a turning point regarding difficult substances that may be no longer required in your life, right? You've got to think about Jupiter in the house of things that you eat on the proof of concept. He wants you to have a lot of good stuff that you want to overdose on. And Mars is saying, let's structure it, let's cut it, let's end it, let's contain it. So that's the last gasp of any kind of overdosing on Haagen-Dazs wine and cigarettes or whatever else might ail you. Those habits and patterns are dramatically changing. It looks like by next summer, and the last opening square between Jupiter and Saturn. Now, Gemini, sun, moon, and rising sign, it is going to look like this is, go back to January sorry, January. Go back to December 21st, 2020, add 20 years. What is the next story about? What are you doing here, right? It's 19.5 years later. What are you doing? You're trying to achieve something in Aquarius that is about the following themes: book publishing, podcasting, humanitarian endeavor, spiritual truth and awareness, spiritual alignment, moving into an alignment with your dharma, the way you use your life to be on purpose and being true to your gifts and talents and the mission you're here for. Mission possible. Ninth house, a real big focus on third marriage environments over the next 20 years. If you've had two behind you, a lot of Geminis will have a third. Things to do with the ninth house can also be about travel or foreign lands, or just the category, the word international. Those themes are your story to invite you into a larger than life energy, to invite you into a more statehood in that area of your life for the next 20 years from 2020. Now, the proof of concept opening square has come to you, courtesy of August 19th. What we see here is Jupiter in your first house. You are bold, ambitious, magnanimous, and leaderful. Mars, directional, making choices and decisions, action plans. You got this. You got this. This is you. This is you in the middle of August. But there is that square to Saturn in the 10th house. And the 10th house Saturn is like, there are containing structures in your work that you must abide by. The boss has rules. The company has rules. I have a progressed sun in Gemini. There are things I must do on the YouTube channel algorithm that are rule-based. I can't break the rules, but I also can't stop. I have to endure. I have to ride the treadmill of content creation or lose the traction I have with the channel. And so this is a containment, enduring, persevering, hardship energy of Saturn at the top of the sky. But he's also the expert authority and the master of something. And those energies are here for many Gemini, rising especially, sun as well. And so you've got this energy up there, and this is what you feel like. Perhaps in August, you're being tested. Testing 1 2 1 2. I'm going to open my window now again because the crow stopped beeping and I'm hot. Oh my gosh. Just watch the crow come back because the crows are hearing my voice. Okay. So you're really feeling this, guys. Testing, because you are bold, ambitious, and greater, larger than life, magnanimous, and leaderful right now. Thank you, Jupiter, and Mars. And then all of a sudden you have to come into this kind of reality check. What is it you can and can't do realistically at this time? You know, it reminds me of that song by Drake, you can have it all, a big house, a big car. You can't have it all. Saturn says you can have it, but you can't have it all. Jupiter would like to have it all. I mean, he wants his cake and he wants to eat it too. He isn't a sign of his detriment. You can't believe everything he tells you. So this square really does open up a period of time where you have to balance that question mark of what can I keep? What can I let go of? What's important to me? What decisions to cut away? Extraneous career matters are important to me. These are questions and answers at play for you at that opening square, August the 19th. And of course, you want to give it a week before and after. But then you feel the same tension in December around the 24th. And then we end with a cardinal square, June 15th next year, which brings Jupiter into the sign of Cancer, Saturn into the sign of Aries, saying that the final result has a lot to do with the great gains you're capable of maximizing from your career path in a very structured way 3 more years after that. Plus, because the Saturn's transit through Aries will take that long, plus you're also able to look at an exalted Jupiter in your earnings, savings, and resources financially. All of this opening square question mark testing 1 2 1 2 is going to take you to a luscious place financially next year in the month of June, but it still tests you. It still asks you what you need to be restrained, where the restraint might lay most effectively. And if the 11th house is a place of some restraint, it could also be some restraint regarding which groups of friends or larger groups of belonging you wish to align with. That may be a theme playing out next June, as indeed you're coming into a bounteous year of great financial success as Jupiter navigates your second house. My progressed Gemini sun is really liking that. Cancer, sun, moon, and rising sign. It is a sky that we go back to, 2000. And I hope you listen to the intro with Adam, everybody. Please listen. We go back to 2020, December 21st, when the great conjunction of kings came together in Aquarius. It is the dawning of the age of. And this energy says where you put your focus, 2020 at 19 and a half years, you put your focus here. It is 8th house, occult mysteries, magic, deep psychological awareness, the transformation of your identity, moksha, liberation from the character, but also the chunky money. That's the money with your partner, the money with your spouse, the money with the bank, the money as a shareholder in a company, the more money from royalty income shared with a publisher. Those sorts of monies are going to be a place of growth and also success, but also structure and containment. And you've got a lot of yourself there. The esteem of others is an 8th house ancient meaning. Thank you, Adam, for that tip at one point. And you may actually be growing in the esteem of the world over the course of those 20 years from 2020. But to make this happen, you're going to be tested in the proof of concept opening square of August the 19th. And then again, December 24th. And of course, in June 15th. August 19th has that Mars with Jupiter in your 12th house, squaring that Saturn now in your 9th. Very intense testing here because this 12th house place is a place of self-undoing. And if there's any way that you are going to sabotage your good life stories with Jupiter having his detriment here and he wants to expand, but Mars is making decisions with him, you're going to do that when it comes to maybe having to test something mid-August to do with the following themes. Your ability to reach an international audience to generate revenue, your ability to succeed in a book publishing deal, your ability to succeed, Saturn's in the book publishing house, in a third marriage environment, without sabotaging yourself, your ability to find a spiritual path or take a educational program, 9th house matters, that continually give you a backbone of spiritual resourcefulness, Saturn in the 9th, but squared by the 12th house, which is liberation. This can even look like you joined a church and now you're struggling with the bullshit of it and you're trying to actually bust out. So you ultimately are looking with Saturn up there, and that's the story that you're going to feel until 2026, for the spiritual path and structure that would really sustain you in life. That can be joining the ashram, the kirtan community, the church. You guys are looking for the house of God. Where is that place that can take you on a traditional path of truth? Possibly also, maybe some of you are looking at difficult challenges this August to do with people and places in foreign far off shores. Those are both 9th house and 12th house matters. And certainly Mars, Jupiter in the 12th house is get thee to the ashram, and Saturn is saying, no, you have to focus on some other thing, that book publishing deal, that higher educational course. The proof of concept ultimately is trying to get you to succeed in that chunky money 8th house and in the esteem of others. So this is a testing window. Saturn can look like somebody who's like a spiritual teacher, an ally, like a coach, a spiritual guide, a human resources person. Those are kind of Saturn in the 9th house people who are pressuring the situation regarding the 12th house, like an addiction, a self-undoing, and this forces at you to say, break the pattern, shift it. You feel the same energies December 24th. And then finally on June 15, the cardinal world axis anchored Jupiter in Cancer, your first house, squared by Saturn, now in the top of the sky. Looks like this whole testing period of August and December kind of finalizes with the grand cardinal finality. All cardinal energies, initiative taking. You are a cardinal sign. Gosh almighty, with this energy of an exalted Jupiter moving through the house of you, and that will last until the summer of 2026. So in June, you feel this energy of Jupiter making you big, bold, ambitious, pregnant, girthy, wider, larger than life, happy, boisterous, successful, and lucky. Woo! As that story does go from next June to July of 2026, you start off with this proof of concept last testing. And the square from Saturn is hardship with the work matters. That or a father figure, sort of compressing your exuberance, sort of reality checking for you, what you can and can't do regarding career and reputation matters. and you're really having to think about that. You have to lean into it. Saturn rules your marriage house. That last square can definitely indicate some tension in the marriage environment. Pluto in the house of shared resources, then you may be coming to terms with the end of a marriage as well. And of course, the reputation is Saturn, something heavy, something burdensome, like a divorce or a widowhood or widowerhood. I'm not saying that if you're young, but I'm just saying the kinds of vibes that are pressuring you in June of next year, middle of June. But it is the diamond that gets formed from the carbon pressure. So you're being diamondized here. You're going to be very prosperous, abundant, and fortunate in this time frame of a Jupiter transit through Cancer. So you should welcome it. But I'm just giving you that last proof of concept. Chunky money comes through inheritances often. And this could indicate inheritance money from a spouse or good divorce settlements, if that's something that might happen in your imagination or your mind. I mean, ultimately, you guys are all dealing with the South Node through the fourth house, which can be a loss of home, change of home, releasing of home, certainly releasing of childhood wounds. That's a backdrop under which all of this proof of concept is happening. Although by the time January emerges and we have the cardinal Jupiter-Saturn story, the node of fate has moved into Virgo and is no longer in that fourth house, which is your third house. Trips, travel, and journeys. New neighborhood. Okay, we're going to move on to the next sign. We'll be covering each of these touch points in individual videos. So if you haven't liked and subscribed yet and you do like this kind of content, please do so. I'd appreciate that. Now, Leo, sun, moon, and rising sign. It is a sky that has begun already. Back in, as we know, December 21st, 2020, the great conjunction of kings occurred with Jupiter and Saturn in the sign of your marriage house. Now, it is marriage, long-term committed love, business partners, and sometimes the way the other people important to you show up. Therefore, with Pluto traveling here for 20 years, wealthy, powerful people, including marriage partners and business partners, may show up. It's this transit through Donald Trump's sky that got Elon Musk to back him. This is a fortunate sky for you, and it comes to matters to do with the kinds of people that are attracted to your world. It also indicates, of course, transformational and regenerative powers in long-term committed love. Now, Pluto is here, but that is the same place, of course, that we saw the conjunction of kings. So the next 20 years from 2020 December invite you to transform your relationship to the audience, marketplace, and clients that you can serve through your 10th house, or to your spouse, or to a spouse to come, or to matters of partnership with others. And this is where the great juice of your life is for this time frame. And it's a first in a lifetime 20-year cycle and the last in a lifetime. And so if, for most of you, unless you're like a kid right now, and so ultimately, the testing proof of concept is here. It's here August the 19th, December 24th, and June 15th of next year in an opening square between the planets of Saturn and Jupiter. And here's what I think. Saturn is testing you from the 8th house of other people's financial resources, including bank loans, mortgages, money you share with anything, institutions or people, and the 11th house of great gains from your career, including sometimes almost like, great pennies from heaven resulting from things you've done in the 10th or will be doing in the 10th house. Now, this bodes well energetically that you feel quite capable of getting great career gains and also benefiting from the help or alliance of the elder sibling above you and people who treat you like a little sibling who want to help you. This is where there's a lot of yay you going on in the middle of August. But then there's this downer, Debbie Downer Saturn going, have you checked your tax structures? Are you looking at the metrics here on your bank account? Have you got the structures in place to receive this great gains that are coming your way? Maybe you need to incorporate or something like that. And it's an inheritance house, and a Saturn is the elder, the sage, the senex, the wise man, the wise old woman. And it's possible you're looking at some kind of August and December critical juncture turning point around receiving some money from an elder family member through inheritance or just giving it to you or a trust fund. It's a square. It just means it feels tense. It doesn't mean it's negative. But there's a proof of concept testing anyway about how you can be successful in the outreach to other people. And that's the place of your greatest power. And now you're being tested in this house. There is money you share with others there, right? It's money's with your dad, your mom, your grandparents, your spouse. and there's some kind of crisis point or tension point here. And I'm not doing the gnarly T-square, but with Venus in your second house of earnings and resources as well, you're coming into a crunchy moment around August 19th. And you're making some decisions perhaps, or someone else is, right? Jupiter Mars can be something going on with that elder sibling or a friend who's an ally or a benefactor, and you're in the crosshairs of change financially connected to that other person. December 24th, the same tensions there, but we end on June 15th in a cardinal square instead of mutable. And that cardinality means action and initiative and bold change. And that is going to be Jupiter in the sign of Cancer in your 12th house, Saturn in the 9th. I'm wondering if some of you aren't planning to relocate to another far off foreign shore. I'm wondering if some of you might not think about changes regarding your long-term committed love that have to do with legal matters. I'm thinking some of you may change your structures in your work through new educational paths and learning something new, going back to school maybe. And also some of you may make some significant changes in how you relate ultimately to these others. And that includes your audience and clients, right? By becoming more aligned with giving them knowledge and wisdom through teaching. Ninth house matters. And you may, again, get some knowledge and wisdom and education for yourself that allows you to succeed more broadly in the way you reach out to what I would call your audience, right? The public from your 10th house. 7th house matters. And some of you just might have a turning point, cardinal energy in June as a final proof of concept, where you figure out that something about your long-term committed love story requires a spiritual connection. You want to move into alignment with the house of God, and you want to go into the 12th house of deep moksha, light, spiritual liberation with the cardinal square. And because everything for you is about the other, the business partner, the marriage partner, the people you interact with, the significant others, you're suddenly shifting an axis energy into the cardinality of spiritual truth and wisdom. And it's almost like all at once, something about spiritual alignment becomes important to you in next June regarding how you relate to that spouse, that business partner, etc. Okay, we're going to keep going. I'll be doing individual videos on this. Virgo, sun, moon, and rising sign. Ultimately, the sky, Virgo, is very, very much going to open up a 20-year cycle from December 21st, 2020, that is all about a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius. And we know Aquarius is the workhouse for you. It's your job. It's the boss, it's employee-employer. You can have employees, you can be an employee, you can have servants here. You can also rent out property here or be a tenant here. You can own animals here and deal with animals here, pets types animals, domestic animals. This is a 6th house. It's got a lot of stuff. It's about health, and health matters. Now, when that conjunction happened back in the 2020, this is an invitation for the next 19 years after, 19 and a half, 20 years after, for this to be the area of the greatest focus, right? Where you're on a new path here. This is really about work. What kind of work are you here to do? Do you know yet? Will you have to leave one kind of work for a new kind of work, job, service to emerge? You're in a 20-year karmic debt payment plan so you can receive the karmic rewards of your 11th house. I'm sorry, that can be true. Lord of karma time is Saturn, is 6th house is that karmic debt repayment plan, service to relieve yourself of karmic debt to get the rewards of your 11th. Good news coming on that, by the way. And, the 6th house is like, it is the work environment, as your home office, maybe. It could be the office with the other people involved. So there's a big energy shift there that is still in play, where your focus should be the most prioritized. And Pluto brings you wealth in that area of your life, and riches and power in the work, health, pets, tenancies, and rentals environment. Jupiter is the ruler of your 4th house, indicating a possibility that some of this wealth comes through property or inheritance matters as well, as co-joining here indicates a flow to your 4th house from way back in the day, 2020. Now, also, And my daughter, who is a Virgo rising, received her grandmother's inheritance during that window of time. So she actually got some inheritance, but this getting money from legacy wealth doesn't end for 19 years. So there's more of that involved. Now, when we look at the proof of concept testing opening square August 19th, we're going to see a Jupiter-Mars combination in your 10th house. This is giving you a huge amount of confidence, a big confidence boost when it comes to how your social standing, your reputation, and your career success looks. You have Mars there. Some of you may quit a job, but it's because there's something more bountiful for you. Some of you may also this summer be looking at the sense of being driven, passionate, ambitious, directional, and mighty and heroic in the career and work space. That doesn't feel too bad. But then Saturn is like, nah, let's restrain things here. And he's coming off of your marriage house, your business partner house, or the clients and audience, if you have clients and an audience in your work. And there's a bit of constriction. And it's proof of concept that you can be this powerhouse of success in your work and career matters because of the conjunction of kings back in the day. So how can you do that with this tension? It can be your spouse is having a hard time, or your long-term committed love partner is going through some time of hardship, or controlling you, or being a Debbie Downer, or being heavy-handed. And the square is to your own uprising, how you are like looking like a leader, looking like a winner in your career story. And you certainly say winner with Jupiter Mars up there. Now, Jupiter rules your fourth house of home and property, and this tension may move you. You may change your home. You may quit your home, rent another home, shift your home, change your home with your partner even, or maybe buy a new home because of the North Node in the eighth house with your partner. But the square tension is like, what's going on in the middle of August, guys? It's like you're feeling really heavy. And you're feeling really burdened by your partner maybe, or circumstances with significant others that are trying to kind of give you a kind of a yellow light, especially in your career when you're all about the green light, right? You're all about the green light. And although I'm not adding Venus yet because I'm doing a separate T-square video, Venus in the fourth house can mean love is fallen in the fourth house. So domestic unbliss is happening in your life in the middle of August. And you'll feel the same kind of energy in December. It won't necessarily be the same because Venus is gone from the story, but you're just like sitting pretty on your throne in your career path, and you're feeling really good about life. That's not going to go away. That's that Jupiter placement until next summer of next year. And so you're still feeling really good about it. And your partner's still an egg. So, or a client's really bothering you, or some other significant situation. Legal contracts also can be troublesome regarding property, home, land, and real estate, whether they're rental contracts or owning contracts. And those energies are tense August and December. We end on a glorious cardinal energy of an exalted Jupiter in the sign of his strength, in the sign of Cancer, June 15th. And he will be squaring Saturn in Aries. It looks like an inheritance. It looks like a chunk of money, a stock win, looks like a sign-on bonus, a severance package, a promotion and raise. I don't know. A chunk of money. It may be connected to work, but it can feel like windfalls, pennies from heaven, karmic rewards. It may be connected to inheritances, of course. Anytime we see eighth house matters kick in, especially with Jupiter ruling the fourth house of the family of origin finances. And so that's a story that may be playing out where you receive some good money June of next year, a week before and after June 15th, but you're also still feeling this proof of concept. Can you be powerful in your work and your own career path in the sky over those 19 years from last 2020 conjunction? So it's not that you shouldn't be joyful about what looks like promotions, raises, career gains, financial gain, winning the jackpot, maybe on a spousal support separation agreement. All of that kind of stuff looks really happy for you. But at the same time, it's reminding you, this is testing you. It's not enough to win the lottery or get a jackpot of money. It's not the lottery though. Well, it could be because Saturn rules the house of gaming. Win the lottery, get a jackpot, get an inheritance, whatever this luscious financial bit is about next summer. But it's also to remind you, you're here to do your own thing. You're going to get wealthy if you apply yourself over those 20 years through the means of the livelihood and the work that you choose, Virgo. Now, what if you're retired? Well, then what are you doing in the sidelines? People don't retire and sit at home, do they? And do nothing on the lazy boy chair. You got to do something. You lose purpose and meaning, right? So something you're doing in the non-official work world can generate a great deal of profound Plutonian riches in the house of work, or employees and employers. So let's see what happens. I never know what to do with you retired people, because like, well, I'll never retire. Like, I might quit this job, but I'll have something else. I just don't get what retirement is, like what you just recreate. That's one thing, you're taking care of the grandkids and that's your path. But I'm just trying to point out, I don't get the idea of doing nothing after I've done one career. So maybe that's just my Aries quality. Boldly go to something new. Next, I'm going to get my brain surgery degree, Libra, sun, moon, and rising sign. In the sky, you got this story of the synodic conjunction of the great kings that happened for the first time in a lifetime in Aquarius. That is a setting of power and success and directionality that could be quite important to your life from 2020 December at about 20 years. That's your focal point. It is a house of entrepreneurship. It is a house of creativity. It is a house of children and fertility and having children. It is the house of romantic and sexual love. It is the house of what inspires you, enthuses you, and brings you joy and enjoyment. That is what you want to focus on. That is where all Libra risings especially are going to focus on over the course of the next 20 years from 2020. And Pluto's there, adding intensity, regeneration, transformation, and riches. Your fifth house is full of money. If you want to make yourself rich there, you can do it. And you're going to feel that in the backdrop of that narrative, the testing and proof of concept begins now. August the 19th, December 24th, and June 15th, testing 1, 2, testing 1, 2. Can you get this thing to work? This resurgence of energy and power of your fifth house. So what the test is that Saturn has moved into your sixth house of work and health matters and pets and tendencies, and is in a conversation with super happy Jupiter Mars. Jupiter Mars are like international, spiritual truth, international borders, book publishing success. I'm on target with my third marriage. I'm really loving this powerful sense of me on top of the spiritual house of God place. It's really good for book publishing. It's really good for podcasting. It's really good for humanitarian endeavors. It's really good for going back to school and getting accepted at your favorite school. It's very good for teaching others like a professor. And then Saturn is like, wait a minute, what's going on here? That's the drudgery, the duty, the servitude part of our lives. What is it? Your pet that's holding you back? Is it your drudgery of your day job? Is it things to do with your health? And you realize that you got to take care of that in order for proof of concept, entrepreneurial, creative power and wealth that's generating here until 2040 from the Great Conjunction. You're testing it in the house of slavery. So it was a house of slavery because we have employees here, but we used to have servants here. So ask yourself, where are you feeling constrained and constricted, and where are you a slave to some situation in your life? It could be the work environment. It could be the animal and pet environment. It could be a rental tenancy environment. I don't know. It could be a health energy that's keeping you, an illness is keeping you feeling like you're in servitude for some reason. And you're going to try to break through that energy for sure, because the Jupiter square is asking for a breakthrough August the 19th, and make decisions that help you break out of that. And December 24th, without Mars helping out, same energy there. So you're coming into two crucibles of turning point energy that ask you to get out of something that's too hard. But Saturn is not just a bad guy. He also says the discipline and perseverance and forbearance and endurance you apply to this part of your sky, your health, your work, daily work, your pets and your rental and tenancies and your debt, pay off that debt, are going to help you bust out eventually in some ninth house matter. Again, I gave you the delineations. The energy on June the 15th is different. It moves out of the mutable signs into cardinal. And that means that we have an exalted Jupiter at the top of your sky. That starts to be true early in June 10th next year. But by the time we get to June 15th, you are like the queen, a king or queen of Mount Olympus. You have got it together. You can sow your oats up here. You are like on it. You could be promoted to the head of a company. You could start your own business. You're just king-like, sky-like, luck, expansion, growth, career, social standing, career, and reputation are going to be a lot of things that you want to see happen next June into July of 2026. But at the same time, this is a last square that says, can I be this powerhouse of creativity, artistic stuff, entrepreneurial stuff, mother, fatherhood, luck, money luck, even just having good fortune, winning money, even. That's what you want to try to attempt to do to some degree over the next 20 years. I kind of want to know that with Saturn moving into your seventh house, the drag on your exuberance is other people, the clients that pull you down, the business partner that's not right for you, the marriage partner that's heavy-handed and really, So you're going to have like a kind of like yay me career energy next June, but there's a drag in the significant relationships house. But yet Saturn has a lesson for you there. By attending to the needs of some other significant person or whatever, you may find that you are able to build a stronger foundation for what will end up being an amazing surge of career success 2025 to 26, summer to summer. Alrighty, Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising. The beginning of the story goes back, as I said with Adam, I hope we said that, to the great conjunction in Aquarius, December 21st, 2020. And this is the beginning of a 19-20-year cycle where land and home and property and real estate and things you do in your private and domestic life are meant to generate Jupiter bounty and prosperity and family, including children. And also the constraints that are needed, the bumper bowling constraints of structure Saturn brings into the narrative. So you're going to find that you work hard to create that prosperity and bounty and structure over the next 20 years in the fourth house. Now, Jupiter here and Saturn can indicate things to do with legacy wealth. And some of you may receive from an elder parent or an elder grandparent money. When? Anytime from 2020 to 2040. At the very same time, the proof of concept opening square has arrived between Jupiter and Saturn, and it starts on August the 19th. Give it a week before and after. I think Adam and I said that in the beginning. And that's what you feel is the Jupiter in your eighth house of inheritance monies, where it's going to be till next summer, with Mars for severing, cutting, and ending, but also action and decisions, squaring Saturn in the fifth house. Now, Saturn here is where you have your romantic life, where you have your relationship to your children, where you have a connection to entrepreneurial instincts and creative projects. There's a bit of a crisis energetic here, or a decision gritty moment of time. It will indicate perhaps, okay, matters to do with another fifth house person. Like your child is demanding money from you, adult or not, or your romantic partner, not marriage partner, this is like a romance, is having some issues that are cutting into your longer range chunky money, which is, that means your tax structures, your shareholder investments, your things to do with royalty income, or money that you get because you and a partner do share money together in a long-term committed love story. And you're coming into maybe a bit of a crunch with that kind of money in your life. It is only a short duration, but it's a longer story because it comes back on December 24th. So you get it again. And, you know, Saturn is the ruler of the house, the home, the property, and the money from your family of origin as well. So we can bring that tension into the story as well. And I'm just sitting with this one for you guys. And, you know, this energy is like Saturn is trying to please Jupiter, right? It's his domicile. So I'd say you might have to be way more structured with matters to do with where you attempt to find enjoyment in your life and pleasure. And it could look like fiscal constraint, spending less money on enjoyable activities and leisure pleasure activities. You're tightening the wallet, maybe, is what I would say. And don't forget, the long game is about legacy wealth and property and land and real estate and being successful there. But there's a tightening of the wallet energetically here, middle of August, again, December the 24th. in order for you to understand the long game of like Pluto, fourth house people. Oh my God. Like you guys end up being wealthy in your old age and you get this for the next 20 years. Like what kind of riches are you generating in the bottom of the sky? June the 15th, the cardinal square happens on the world axis, and that's going to be Jupiter exalted in your ninth house in the early degrees in a square to Saturn in your, um, Saturn has moved into Aries temporarily, by the way. So that's a sense of a ninth house, sixth house square. It's going to finish up like you, big, bold initiative and actions need to be taken coming for you next June that indicate changes maybe of domicile, because Cancer can just categorically rule where you live. Sixth house can be rental property changes, changing a rental situation or renting a property out, changes of domicile. Also, 6-9 can indicate changes in your work connected to an international company or international matters and work. And a domicile change could also be indicated here because of work matters. If a company has international status, like you work for a big company, right, with an international company. Because ultimately, also next year, you're going to have a lot of energy to start to really look at what makes you enjoy life, because the North Node starts to amplify the house of enjoyment and pregnancy and fertility and children. And this whole thing feels like there's a big change in your life regarding maybe your status, regarding your relationship to children, fertility, and pregnancy. But also like home. Home keeps coming back to me because Saturn is always about your home. He owns your fourth house, right? He's moved into the sixth. And technically, you might change your home because of a job. You may change your home internationally to move to another country, or you may rent a new home because of work or something like that. And that's an energy for a lot of Scorpios that will feel like a crisis or decision moment next June, but it's the last of the opening squares. So it all takes you back to how you can be a powerful force to be reckoned with in and from your home and because of land, property, home, and what you do with legacy wealth, including investments, because of the flow to the eighth house. All right, Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising sign. The story is all about the great conjunction that happened between Saturn and Jupiter. That occurred on December 21st, 2020, and indicates for the 20 years that follows that time frame, an area of focus in your life. Your soul is chosen to incarnate, to know what it is to be powerful, expansive, contained, wise, and to grow in a steady way in matters to do with Aquarius. And that is your third house. And for a lot of Sagittarius, that can be to do with writing projects, social media, online world, growing in context of neighborhood relations, brick and mortar businesses in your neighborhood that you could establish, things to do with your younger sibling, one under you, being a place of focus for you over the course of 20 years from 2020. And also your daily life. And this, as Adam says, the fishbowl in which you swim, that is where you focus. You know, it's not enough to live in a high rise in a place you can't stand the neighbors in the neighborhood. Your daily life becomes prioritized, and how that feels to be in that environment becomes a focal point for you. So I know a lot of people who are Sagittarius, and I already know this is an energy for them that's been a disgruntlement or a challenge to find their neighborly home, to find the place where the daily fishbowl in which they swim is what they really want. So that question and answer period is going to continue in the backdrop. And here we have the opening square. The opening square is a testing and a proof of concept that starts August 19th, December 24th, and June 15th, always bracketed by a week on either side. The first test of concept, however, August 19th, is this Jupiter with Mars in your seventh house of legal marriages and long-term committed monogamous relationships, business partners, clients, and audience. Now, if you are with somebody already in a long-term committed love story, monogamous or cohabitational, whether it's legal or not, this is Mars and Jupiter in that house, and it squares Saturn in the house of the home. You may come into a crisis with a significant partner in which there's somebody who wants to break the relationship up, change the relationship dynamic in the home, maybe bring an elder to live with you in your home and you're not liking that. Things to do with home and significant other or business partner are in a crucible of intensity for you, and you may not be particularly welcoming this story. Fallen Venus will be in your 10th house. It may be that your relationship is falling apart and your reputation is falling apart with it. Like everybody, you know, like John and Jill quit the relationship. If you get through that, it's back December 24th, but without the participation of Mars. So it's less intense. Your partner may be Jupiter Mars right now. They may be boldly, ambitiously making decisions and taking actions, but it may not please you, right? Square Saturn in the fourth house, maybe breaking a Chronos, the Lord of Time, maybe breaking an agreement. We're going to live together. We're going to move here together. We're going to share this together. And someone wants to break the agreement with you, maybe over time. It's breaking a time agreement, time sensitive breaking here. Again, if you get through that August 19th and December 24th, it's back. You're alone. You're single. What would this mean? I wouldn't start a new relationship under this thing. I certainly wouldn't. You may make some fractures or breaks regarding karmic conditions to do with your family of origin, your mother, your mother's at fourth house. You may be breaking through and free from some of those constraints that held you back from actually achieving the career success you really wanted in life. So this could be some deep soul work about your career, but the fracture point comes also, or the stress point, from another person. Jupiter be a guide, a coach, a mentor. So you might be getting feedback from some of these types of people, helping you dispel childhood stories that held you back, that kept you from expressing a career path that was not fallen, right? That was going to be the right one for you. Those are stories for some Sagittarius. But June 15th next year, I like it a lot because we move into cardinality, which demands action and it's initiative and it's daring and it makes change happen, not just like friction, but change. And that last square is going to be an exalted Jupiter in the house of chunky money. Yay! And it comes into a square with Saturn in the house of children and romance. Now, ultimately, it could look like some financial challenges with your children. But in the deeper sense of the story, if you're in a romantic relationship and a long-term one, for example, and some of you may not be, it can be about the way the assets will be divided with that romantic partner. You may also be making some major life changes to do with finding structures that bring you enjoyment and pleasure and joy creatively, life force generatingly. And with a square to an exalted Jupiter in your eighth house, there can be this expansion all through June of next year to July of 26 in your savings, taxes, the money you have from investments, the mortgage payment monies, inheritances for some of you, only if it's an elder though. Saturn in the fourth house to begin this process, probably grandma, some money coming through the line, or a very elder parent. But ultimately, the way it ends is going to propel you forward to make some kind of shift in your sky regarding money that you wish to have, that prospers you, that you can leverage, maybe from your children, maybe from your lover, but maybe because of something that is about an exalted separation of assets in a long-term relationship, some money that comes chunking in from the sale of a property. That's all very possible. Some of you may be possibly looking at the gains from your career, the gains from sale of a property. Saturn moving into early Aries in June is the money from the sale of a property. Second house from the fourth. Saturn says it's tight. It's less than you wanted. But Jupiter's like having a party in the eighth house. He's like, we got the money. Or, this is good. Or, that feels like a true story for some Sagittarius who have some real estate or property that they could possibly sell, because maybe someone moved out, now you got a big house to yourself or something like that. There's many stories here. Again, your children are involved. Maybe your children will be moving out, or less connection with your children allows you to move to a new place. These are themes in general that may happen for some Sagittarius. Ultimately, if you're an artist or creative, though, with Saturn moving into your fifth house, you're going to drill into your book, your painting, your art, and you can get prosperity from that intense effort starting June 15th at about a year next year. But ultimately, don't forget, we're looking at how you want to find that power and wealth in the house of writing, in the house of communicating, in the house of social media, in the house of your neighbors and neighborhood. That's not just Pluto, but that's that Saturn conjunction to Jupiter that started the whole shebang in 2020. Capricorn, sun, moon, and rising sign. You have a conjunction back in 2020, December, between Jupiter and Saturn, the synodic cycle for first in a lifetime. Capricorns are asking themselves, how do I get wealthy? How do I have a lot of money? How do I have a lot of savings? How am I a financial powerhouse? Saturn says structure, time, discipline, forbearance, endurance. Jupiter says bounty. So it doesn't come overnight, but it happens. And over the next 20 years from 2020, the maintenance, preservation of your funds, Saturn, the expansion and growth, Jupiter, are a part of the narrative for you. You may find that this story could dramatically change your food style, but who cares? But what you eat and drink and smoke is that too, and that's all under review. However, with Pluto there, and Pluto can transform you in your financial matters, but he can also bring you riches. The god of the underworld is the god of wealth. And that's the story for you guys. And it's just really starting up, right? This is Pluto in Aquarius for the full-time duration after this November. So money should not be your priority worry if you are a Capricorn. Rising, especially sun and moon secondarily, to be really particularly accurate. The money you could get rich on from your sun is career related, from your moon, real estate and property, but the rising sign any which way you want. Now, energetically, the squares, August the 19th, December 24th, and next June 15th are proof of concept. Can you get rich? Can you get wealthy? Can you be resourceful? As this question mark is being asked and the answer should be arriving, you are till 2040, you're figuring it out. You're going to note this. This opening square is about the tension between Jupiter and Mars in the 6th house of pets, maybe dating, rental properties, debts, work and work routines and workplace environment, and health and sickness matters. All of those 6th house things are on your agenda, but in August 19th, squaring Saturn in your 3rd house, I'd say this can look like tension with your neighbors, tension with a younger sibling, a debt crisis connected to a sibling, a situation with your potentially your home and domestic life, but that's if your IC and floating whole sign houses is in the 3rd house. But this tension in this part of the sky can very much be about a turning point as well. Not just like, oh, this is heavy. Is there tension from a neighbor, a younger sibling, or a project, a writing project, communications project, and the work situation itself? You're working on a project, creative project, writing project, social media project. Now, Jupiter brings bounty and also pays off debt. Mars has decisions and actions. Saturn is in the house of siblings and he's the elder. So there could be some critical turning points with a sibling, elder sibling, that involve money, debt, who owes who what, coming through the sky, August 19th and December 24th, because that story is still there both of those times. It would be a good time to make changes to your health routines involving things to do in the local neighborhood. Saturn structure, it could be barbells, dumbbells, join a gym. And it may sound silly and super, incidental, not necessarily, because you got to power up to be rich here. And this is the house of what you put in your mouth. So quitting what you put in your mouth that's not good for you is a big deal. And you may be feeling that pressure August 19th and December 24th. But local neighborhood environments that bring structure, and this is very bodybuilder, you might be joining a workout place or a gym or something like that, and travel. You have some constraint on travel. Travel feels hard, difficult, arduous, and burdensome. And you've got to do a lot of back and forth, whether you're commuting or where you need to get to, you need to travel a lot, or there's a lot of travel going on. And you're feeling a crucible around travel matters August 19th as it connects to health or debts or dating or pets. You want to travel, but you got a pet anchoring you. And you feel like pressure August 19th, December 24th. Okay, the good news is that the cardinal square last proof of concept is a doozy, and I love it. Jupiter has moved into the sign of Cancer, and Cancer is, I cannot believe my neighborhood. If it's not the crow or the trucks, it's now someone bashing something. You guys, I'm moving my neighborhood. I need to get my feet on the ground. I'm so grateful for my rental, but I'm moving. Okay, so I just said it there on YouTube, right? I'm moving. Someone cheered me on to find a beautiful mansion in the woods with, got lots of grass and orchard in the backyard. And for some reason, I can afford it. All right, so back to you. Jupiter will be exalted in his superpowers in your 7th house of marriage, significant others, business partners, audience and clients, and marketplace from your Libra 10th house. Yay, you. Exaltation of Jupiter doesn't always mean good things. Blessed endings can happen as well, because it's time to end the relationship, or your partner is really getting rich and you're enjoying watching your partner getting really rich, your business or love partner. Yay, you. Go for it. Or exalted clients and beautifully powerful and auspicious clients and people like that come to you. That's a Jupiter story. That starts next June, lasts till July of 2026. The good news is that as exalted Jupiter is here, finishing your proof of concept on the opening square, From the conjunction of the kings, Jupiter will square Saturn, newly moved into the fourth house. Well, that's land, property, and real estate. Saturn represents enduring, lasting. It also represents structure, like, like architects and stuff, or foremen who build the structure of the home. There may be some luscious turning point next June regarding home. And with Rahu here before that, there's a long call to expand your home, change your home, move your home to a foreign land, maybe. Rahu leaves this part of your chart, the North Node, anyway, and moves into neighbors and neighborhood by the time we get into next January 11th. But you're going to find that expand your neighborhood, right? You're going to find there's something going on here where there is a kind of like the tension of August and December mean change and new directions and initiative regarding your home and regarding your relationship with a significant person. You could sign a legal contract for a change of home. You could sign a new work contract that changes your home because it started off in a workhouse. And those stories become true, coming through the sky, hopefully next summer. If you're going to have a contract regarding home matters, it's enduring, right? It's a long-term contract, a long-term work contract. It's not just like a 5 months deal or a long-term, you really found the right place that you want to stay. Exalted legal dealings regarding land, home, property, and real estate look really good on you, obviously, next summer, if you want to think of it that way. And reminding you that Jupiter exalted in the seventh house doesn't discount the fact that Jupiter is the ruler of neighbors and neighborhoods where, Saturn has been before that. So you're looking for like an exalted neighborhood with some significant legal things, or with the one you're with, somebody in a partnership here. I'm just sitting with one more thing. That opening square August the 19th does look to me like the one that's happening the week before and after August 19th with Mars involved, right? Mars makes it more cutting, severing, quitting, ending. So you may quit a job somewhere around the month of August. It's okay, do it. It's the right choice for you. But you could also quit some situations that have to do with romantic love, especially if romantic love involves travel, distances away, or foreign places and foreign shores. That's a Venus Virgo fallen in the ninth. And there may be some real breakage in a committed love if travel or distance or foreign energies are engaging you in that energy. Now, it doesn't always mean a breakage, because it's not like I'm seeing this in your seventh house, but it can look like tension there, August and December 24th. All right, so we'll see what happens. All right, Aquarius, sun, moon, and rising. I am indeed one of you. I am one of you, and we're going to talk. So we have, I love Astrolada, Lada Donchiva, one of my favorites. I have her channel as a recommendation on my channel down below on my main page, because she was one of my most influential people, along with Adam Elenbaas and a few others, Chris Brennan, when I was getting my toes into this water professionally full-time in 2018. But I've been doing astrology for years. And what I want to say is that she said, yeah, we Aquarians are the lead goose for humanity. Like, we're here to everyone can draft our wings, right? Especially Aquarius risings, sun, yeah, and moon too, of course. But the sun are your soul's Aquarius, but the character of Aquarius rising, the ones that show up on the incarnational stage and go, I'll take the role of this character called Aquarius, air, Spock-like, cares about humanity, focuses on groups of people. That's Aquarius. So we Aquarians are literally the lead goose for humanity. We're plowing new territory. Everyone's going to draft us. Keep that in mind. That's because not only is Pluto traveling through our sign for 20 years, but we received the first conjunction of kings we've had in like 1,000 years in Aquarius. And it was, I think it was the 1200s. Yeah, 1216. So in early Aquarius, but the whole vibe is we are carrying a new conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter, the conjunction of the two kings, and we are holding that energy. And we are the ones that carry that forward for the world. No small task. Now with Pluto joining the fray, holy moly. So it's a lot of energy we have to deal with here, guys. So the conjunction of December 21st, 2020 inaugurates an area of life that is asking us to be all that we can be, because our identity, our character for you Aquarian suns, your career, Aquarian moons, your life force energy, your home matters are asking for elevation and endurance and expansion. All those energies are there for us. And now the opening proof of concept testing square arises August 19th, December 24th, and June 15th. The opening square on the 19th, give it a week or two before or after, tests us with a Jupiter Mars in the house of children, the house of sexuality and romantic love, the house of entrepreneurship and creative projects, squaring Saturn in the house of earnings, money, possessions, resources, in the house of things that we put in our mouth and ingest. Saturn rules the house of self-undoing. A lot of us, like me, I'm in the Wine Lovers Middle Way program, I'm creating it myself, are trying to also divest from substances that bring pleasure, but maybe not joy. And we're in a testing period, August the 19th, and a turning point period. Now, Jupiter in general in the fifth house will give our children luck or protection. But Mars is also like decisions right now, or turning points with children that we have, adult or younger, I don't care. So there's a focal point, turning point regarding a child perhaps in your life, August the 19th, give or take a week or two before. And it's also connected to your financial resources. So keep that in mind. But it's testing us stepping into the conjunction of kings to be both sage-like and wise and masterful, and Yoda, Saturn, and Jupiter, guru, dispeller of darkness, plenty, abundance, hope, and faith. We're asked to do so much for the world and for ourselves, and Pluto, power, wealth, and regeneration. And therefore, this is a small test in the big picture. There may be need to structure money regarding a love relationship or a child. There may be a need to restructure your diet around what gives you pleasure and what's sustainable. There may be tension with a child or a lover in your life mid-August, and it may also revolve around tense speech as well that constrains the relationship but also tries to redirect it. Again, give or take a week before August the 19th. The same test is emerging December 24th, and yet it doesn't have the Mars element, which is demanding immediate decisions and actions, and it's much more intense, right? Mars is here. The tension that we experience again in December 24th is the same elements I just outlined for you. Now, ultimately, Jupiter is telling Saturn what to do. So Jupiter has some strength to tell Saturn what to do in his house. So these changes are not necessarily all that bad, or these decisions that you must make. With Mars as the ruler of your third house, some of this may involve critical turning points with creative projects that involve writing, speaking, online world, and communication there, but also things to do with expanding or changing neighbors and neighborhood situations, just as an option, just bringing it up. Then we move into June 15th next year, when we move the last testing proof of concept opening square into cardinal signs. Jupiter moves into the sign of, yay, exaltation in their sixth house of health, work, employer, employee stories, servants, tenancies and rentals, and pets. Jupiter will likely get you a pet. If you can survive, Aquarius, living through next June to June of 26 without a pet, I will give you money, because I can't see how we're going to avoid it with Jupiter's abundance in the house of pets. But the square we experienced June 15th that closes out this tension of proof of concept is squaring Saturn temporarily and newly moved into the third house of the neighbors, the neighborhood, the younger sibling, writing projects, online world, communications and marketing and selling, etc. Ultimately, it feels to me a little bit like a story, because the North Node will have moved by then into your second house of earnings, the swapping places with Saturn. You're looking for situations here next June that will be boldly acted upon. Cardinality gives you bold initiative and action and change. Looks like you may be making some changes next summer regarding the following themes: rental and tenancy agreements, things to do with which neighbors and neighborhood relationships you want, and also maybe things to do with your travel plans, but it's too small for that. It's bigger than just, oh, I'm not going to take a trip, I'm going to change my mind. Because the tension started with lovers and children here, and then it kind of shifts gears. And so maybe there's some major changes regarding your relationship to lovers and children that's going to demand some change regarding rental properties, for example, regarding travel and travel plans, commuting even. Commuting is the third house story. Saturn can bring structure, discipline, and focus to the third house, which is really good for those of us who are writers or on online social media, bloggers, doing that kind of media-like work. This is going to give us the structure, discipline, and resources to get what we need and do it. But it's the opening square that's still trying to make us greater than great. So it could be a really big, boisterous, and exciting and prosperous change in your health, sure, but in your work. You're going to enjoy your work. You're going to be expanding in your work, but it also connects to decisions next June regarding third house matters. I think some of you are changing your neighborhood. I think some of us are changing where we live. I think there's some changes regarding our relationship to romantic partners and where we live. And because Jupiter's in the house of rentals and rental properties, you may rent a property out, or you may become the one who receives a bounteous, exciting rental property in the neighborhood, in the local area, or one that you find because you're traveling. Also, just Jupiter in your sixth house for that year indicates a real surge of health and wellness, and a reduction of any kind of chronic or long-standing health challenges. So you've got that to look forward, but you may be making decisions to improve your health around June 15th, connected to things that you're doing in the local environment, in your daily life, your daily routines, and where you go. Maybe joining a gym. It's a Martian third house. That's like good old Martian things like bodybuilding, maybe, or a tennis court or a squash court, competitive sport. That could just be a classic improve your health story. Can't be powerful, wealthy, and successful and lead goose for humanity unless you're healthy. So there's a big change in that next June. And lastly, we have you Piscean people. So you're moving through this sky that started in January of 2020, and the sky is saying, December 21st, 2020, and you're going to do a 20-year stint in Aquarius. Well, if you're a Pisces who hasn't thought about getting enlightened, I'd be surprised, but it is the full-on moksha, spiritual awakening, Buddhahood. So you may prioritize your spiritual life over the next 20 years from 2020, but also foreign shores, foreign lands may be on your radar, even moving to another country from where you currently live. And also you may be focused on matters to do with generating revenue from far off foreign places, people, and companies, etc. Generating business from foreign places is a 12th house story. The other element going on here is that, as that is true, the opening square is here, and August 19th, December 24th, and June 15th. That opening square asks you to test this proof of concept about 12th house stories. Also, do you get are you your own worst enemy? With Pluto here in your 12th house, plus a conjunction of King, to no longer sabotage your own life. You may invite yourself to reinvestigate your karmic and childhood stories to completely get rid of that junk in the trunk. Good time to see, past life regressionists, or do some deep soul work to take away unconscious ways of ruining your own life, basically, in terms of what you want to get and what you don't get in life, including vows of chastity, vows of poverty, weird stuff like that. That's a new story for you guys. But anyway, the opening square, August 19th, December 24th, and later June 15th. The first opening square, the one in the middle of August here, August 19th, Jupiter is bountiful, big, spacious, expansive energy in your home. You're probably enjoying your home, bigger home, moving your home, get lucky with your home. My Pisces sibling, as soon as Jupiter entered her fourth house, finally sold a house with her husband she couldn't sell before then. Jupiter gives you luck and prosperity with land, property, home, and real estate. End of story. And Mars says change of home, move your home, construct your home, build your home. This is the energy that you're having right now. This is the energy that's active August 19th. But that Mars energy is in a square with Jupiter to Saturn. You're a grumpy old woman or man, wise and sage-like, backbone and shoulders are upright. You got your spine in alignment. You are literally looking at the lens through the maturity of an elder. And I will just say for you guys, the T-square was a separate video. You have a fallen Venus in the house of your spouse or marriage partner or significant business partners. They're not doing so well. You're not looking at them with a lot of love. You might have some judgments here. And there's an energy that could look like big tension going on to do with your home life and conflict in the home, domestic strife with a significant partner that you may have living with you. And so look for that crisis energy for some Pisces, August the 19th. If you live alone, of course, it's not that, but it could be some other person bringing in tension. You might want to change your home, move your home, quit your home in the middle of August. You might be frustrated with your home. Saturn brings frustration when it squares Mars. But then on December 24th, it's back again, but without Mars. It's more hot in August, but it keeps nagging at you. You don't see your partner as a fallen Venus at that point. You just feel, what's going on here? I've got all this responsibility. I'm looking at the lens realistically, and I want opportunity and expansion and growth regarding where I live, but I need to make a change. Some of you could change countries. Mars here is the expat signature. I'd say that a lot of Pisces are looking at changing their home, even if you've recently changed it, August 19th and December 24th. But then when we move to June 15th, the square is cardinal. We get out of the mutable signs and we move into a Jupiter exalted in your fifth house. Yay! Children, pregnancy, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, like things are fertile here. A great amount of money from selling a property, like over the top financial gain from selling a property or something like that. That's possible June 15th, actually June of next year to July of 26. But we find the tension of June 15 as Jupiter will square Saturn, who's just tiptoed for a short time into your money and earnings and resources and possessions. There's some crisis around money and a child, money and a romantic partner, regarding money and resources from the sale of a property. That's the tension of June 15th next year. It looks like you're expanding who you are. North Node's moving into your sign. You've got a bigger sense of identity that's emergent next summer. And you've already grown a backbone with the fishies. You need one. And I think this is going to be a financial tension moment with a child, or from a property sale, or with a significant other. Because this all starts with a fallen Venus in the house of other. If you're not in a good marriage or relationship and the North Node is moving through you and the South Node through the house of your significant other, which starts in January 25, many of you married type Pisces are going to flounder in that relationship. If you're single, you can meet a new karmic partner as another option in the 18 months that follow next January. But this looks like tension because it all starts with the fallen Venus in your fourth house with a significant other regarding resources, home, property, land. And this is a call to move your home. So you may be, and why? Because you ultimately want your moksha, liberation. You want your spiritual wisdom and truth. You may want to move to another country from where you currently live, or to a far off shore. But hey, if you live in like Eastern Canada, Western Canada is a far off shore. So there's a move that's trying to be generated that brings bounty and prosperity, but also joy, enjoyment. Could you get some inheritances out of this conjunction here this fall, as a legacy wealth house is here with a South Node in the eighth house? Maybe, but with a fallen Venus here, maybe it's more like money and inheritance money from your spouse that's coming through your coffers. I'd say there's going to be some tension around shared and joint resources August 19th and December 24th with a significant business or love partner, or over tension with a client and finances. Those are small stories. The big story is something to do with where you live. And I don't know that a lot of Pisces are going to attempt to change their home. It may be in concert with money from their partner through a divorce or widow or widowhood. And that's a story for some of you. If you're not married, it's all very different, right? But for those of you who are with a partner, those are themes going on here. Because when you see this conjunction here, you want to be alone, right? This is the nun, the monk, the hermit. You're really not caring about being in a real relationship. You may say you are, but if you're going to be, you want to be alone and be together at the same time then. You know what I mean? So that's a theme for many Pisces that you're trying to emerge in the next 20 years to find the solace in solitude. And, it totally will get you out of codependent relationships or difficult and draining relationships, on the ability for you to get the succor and sustenance you need by being alone, by being in a spiritual path, by finding what's true and real for you. Can you do that in this partnership, or does it weigh you down? If it weighs you down, it may not stick. Thanks for listening, Pisces, Sun, Moon, and Rising. These are possibilities, not probabilities. I'm doing my best to give general delineations. This is not going to apply for all of you. That's why you have astrologers give you personal readings. And I can't do that for you because I'm full and I'm probably not going to stop my readings next year. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Sky Reader starts in the middle of September. I even promoted it all. Maybe I'll remember to promote that before I put Adam on my channel. This video is recorded August the 5th, a day before I record with Adam. And then I'm splicing these babies together. Thank you very much. And I will see you in the next video. Don't forget, you guys are the reason this channel's here. You're sharing my videos, liking and subscribing is why I'm growing. So I appreciate you. And I say thank you, thank you, thank you.